Mr. Rajan Matthews, who is Director General of the Cellular Operators Association of India, joining us on the show. Rajan, to begin with, how would you read into the split verdict of the TDSAT?
We are obviously disappointed that there's a split verdict. We had hoped that there would be unanimity in the verdict. But that being said, it's certainly better than an adverse verdict. And in this particular instance, what the split verdict does is keep the status quo, which means that we can continue to offer our inter-circle roaming arrangements and offer the type of services to the consumer. So in a way, that's good news for us. What we will have to wait and see is how the DOT responds, because now the ball is in the court of the DOT. The DOT will tell us how they again respond to the TDSAT order, and once we get clarity around that, we will have to decide what our options are, including the appeal process to the Supreme Court.
Afternoon, Mr. Matthews, and what's your assessment? Will the 3G roaming of GSM players now remain unaffected?
Clearly, right now, it's status quo. Customers should continue to expect that the service will continue. What will happen is to see how how DOT comes back with its understanding of what is next. And once we see what DOT comes back with, obviously we will have to review our options and see whether we need to take this to the next level of appeal, which is the Supreme Court.
Now the TDSAT had earlier ordered the Department of Telecom to not take any coercive action against telecom companies with regards to the 3G packs. Is that order still valid?
Yeah, I think right now when there is a split verdict, our understanding is that it is status quo, and status quo means that the 3G agreements between the three operators continue to hold and continue to stand until there's some new ruling from the DOT, which then becomes the context of our discussions with TDSAT or a further appeal.
So how much of a hit do you think players like a Bharti Airtel or an Idea will take if the DOT were to scrap these roaming packs all in all? Would an adverse order spoil the business for 3G altogether?
Clearly, if the DOT does take an adverse ruling, it does hurt the three entities that have entered into this particular agreement, and therefore we're hoping that the DOT will take an enlightened view of the particular matter and encourage this, because as I just said, it helps the consumer, it helps the government, and it helps the operators. It's a much more efficient use of natural resource, which is the spectrum. So if the DOT does take a negative view, we clearly will want to take this further in terms of a legal review of what we believe is our rights. Because what we are saying is that when the NIA, which was the document that was the fundamental document for the bidding of 3G, there were 5 instances when specific questions were raised with regard to intra-circle roaming. And in all 5 instances, in response to those questions, the DOT was very clear in terms of its understanding that we could do it. So when you look at the ruling, Justice Sinha, clearly being the judicial person, saw some merit in it. When you look at the technical aspect, of course, member Rastogi looked at it possibly from a technical matter, and so we're hoping that the DOT will look at it holistically and see that there's particularly no reason to give an adverse order on this matter.
And Rajan, lastly, do you think the government will be able to meet the August 31st deadline for the 2G auctions? We still don't know who is going to head the EGOM.
The particular uncertainty that has been thrown up because of the inability of EGOM to come to some type of a decision is absolutely disconcerting to the industry. Will they be able to meet the August 31 deadline? We think there is still a chance. If they keep the decision making to the very narrow perspective and criteria, which we believe is what the Supreme Court really ordered. In the Supreme Court decision, they said, look, the licenses stand quashed, the spectrum is quashed, so please put it up for auction and reallocate the licenses based on an auction approach. The Supreme Court gave a 3-month window because they saw that as a very narrow exercise. I don't think they saw this going into the situation where, you know, you have the redistribution of spectrum, what they call refarming, the decision point in terms of what do you do with people who have existing spectrum, what is the minimum spectrum, is it 4.4, is it 6.2, what do we do with 700, all of those ancillary issues were really, I don't believe, part of the original context of what the Supreme Court was looking for. So if the DOT and if the EGOM focuses their attention on the two critical points. One, what is the reserve price, and lower is better there, and what is the amount of spectrum that is going to be put up, and our point is that put it all up so that there's no artificial scarcity and you can get a appropriate price for that. If they focus on that, I think it's very doable to do the auction by August 31st.